Kia ora and welcome to the Niggly Niche Cast. I am the Diggly Doodah Doc, aka Mr. Slippers, and I am here by myself on the Lonesome Buzz to offer you some rugby league chit chat. That means we got some New Zealand Warriors antics to discuss with their loss to Newcastle Knights. And then we also have Canterbury Cup Reserve Grade Warriors discussion and also Jersey Flegg. And then I will expand my horizons to take a grander look at the NRL and, of course, the Kiwi NRL perspective as well. If you are enjoying what the Niche Cache is dishing up, if you do enjoy the Niche Cache, hit us up on Patreon and support the Niche Cache on Patreon. And we're going to be offering plenty of different ways to support the Niche Cache over the coming months. So if you're not on Patreon, if you don't want to do Patreon, if you hate us, don't worry. And just stay tuned for all sorts of different ways to help us out at the Niche Cache. The Patreon is the best way to support the Niche Cache. Warriors versus Knights. I wrote about this morning, and 36 points to the Knights, 18 points to the Warriors. The overarching vibe from this game is just how flat and mediocre and meh and just CBF the Warriors were. I was hoping for a controlled display. I was hoping for a game in which the Warriors got back to re-establishing the foundations of good Warriors rugby league, like how we want the Warriors to play their rugby league. That didn't happen. There was none of that. None of that. It was just like, oh, what are you up to? Oh, you want to play footy today? Oh, you better show up with a bit more energy than you did, because some of that stuff from the Warriors was just like, what's the point? What's the point coming out and playing if we're not going to play with a certain energy level? Frustrating. And that reminds all us Warriors fans, the way I wrote about it in the blog was the dark arts, the darkness of being a Warriors fan, because being a Warriors fan means that you are familiar with this feeling when your Warriors team just comes out and doesn't do anything. And not only, like, it's one thing to be really crap, it's one thing to be really good. Like, the worst place you can be is in the middle, where it's just indifferent. Like, the Warriors weren't terrible against the Knights. They were just, like, indifferent. They were indifferent. And maybe the difference between being indifferent and really good is just those energy levels, that intensity, that level of play which you would expect from a desperate footy team. And there was not a whole lot of desperation, energy, intensity from the Warriors team. Like, late in the game, when the game's in the balance and guys are making half breaks, I think Pirahuku made a nice half break late in the second half. There's no support play. There's no one buzzing around the footy like he's had 3 coffees in the space of an hour and he's ready to go, let alone popping a few uppers. None of that. Everyone looks super fatigued. Like, where's this conditioning going? Where's the fitness that was celebrated under Alex Corvo? Where is everything about this Warriors team that we want to see? Of course, I'm an optimist. Of course, I am trying to be positive at all times with the Warriors, because that's my point of difference. I'm an enlightened person, I hope. And so I'm trying to offer a lot of Warriors discussion from a positive, uplifting perspective. But in games like this, so you got to keep it real and say that the Warriors just don't show up. They just don't show up. And all these things that Stephen Kearney and the Warriors were building on after last season have been largely absent to start this season. Whether it was the good defense, whether it was clinical execution, whether it was the balance between set plays and razzle-dazzle. None of that's really been here to start 2019. And there are a few factors that I'm going to dive into. But just this night's game, I was just like, bruh, we're back at Mount Smart. The fans are here. Everyone's ruckus. Everyone wants to see the Warriors put on a show. There was none of it. And that's just down buzz. And it's a huge letdown. And it's kind of embarrassing for the Warriors, because they themselves have talked it up. The Warriors have talked up their own systems, their own way of doing it. Like, yeah, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, as they say. That's my job. I'm seeing all these great coaches come to the Warriors. I'm seeing good players come to the Warriors. I'm listening to the vibes and the discussion and the stuff coming out of the Warriors, and I like it. I like what's happened. But they're not backing it up, which is the weirdest thing of all. Like, if you're going to talk that talk, you better walk the walk. And just, yeah. There was a couple of weird statistics from this game. The Warriors didn't have as many offloads. They were out-offloaded by the Newcastle Knights. Let me just pull that up in a second. The Warriors had only 6 offloads. The Knights had 7 offloads. But then the Warriors had 8 errors to the Knights 4 errors. So the Warriors weren't even offloading and they were making double the errors. Then you had the fact that no Warriors player averaged over 10 meters per carry. That's the benchmark. As I always say, that's the benchmark. That's how we're judging players off. Like, you might have lots of runs and lots of meters, but if you're not averaging 10 meters per run, there's not a whole lot of efficiency. Sure, different guys were close, fair play. Peter Hiku, 15 runs, 143 meters, close. Kimamalo, 22 runs, 218 meters, close. Ignatius Parsi, blockbusting performance, 13 runs, 128 meters, close. Lisa Mao, 10 runs, 99 meters, close. But no one averaged over 10 meters per run. That's energy, that's vitality, that's enthusiasm to play rugby league. And when that's not there, that's when you got to ask serious questions. Like, what's missing here? Why are these guys coming out flat? Why are these guys being destroyed in the final moments of that Melbourne Storm game? And now against Newcastle Knights as well. Where's the energy? Where's the fitness? Where's the stamina? Where's just the sheer pleasure of playing rugby league that you just want to be around the footy at all times? Interestingly, Adam Blair had 8 runs for 70 meters. But of course, Adam Blair's statistics are not a reflection of Warriors' performance. That's what I said when Adam Blair was rolling out really like 1 run for 5 meters. Well, suddenly Adam Blair's got 8 runs, 70 meters, and the Warriors lose. Adam Blair is not a statistical kind of guy. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, he is a statistical kind of guy, and he had 14 runs for 96 meters. That is like average. That's average. That's Timaire Martin playing fullback statistics, not Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. And I just got to wonder, like, where's the... He had a dip in effort. He had a dip in his standard status quo performances. So is Roger Tuivasa-Sheck a bit fatigued? He didn't play against the Melbourne Storm. Shouldn't be fatigued. What's happening? Why are these energy levels and vitality and enthusiasm? Why is it so low? That's the depressing thing about the Warriors game against the Knights. Now, there is a very interesting backdrop to that game. So in this game, Chanel Harris-Tavita got pulled after 68 minutes and Hayes Perham came on. Sorry, I was wrong. Hayes Perham had 1 run for 11 meters. So he did average over 10 meters per run. Shout out Hayes Perham. Obviously, that's a convenient statistic to blow away my hypothesis, but we'll keep it moving. Hayes Perham came on to play in the halves, but both Chanel Harris-Tavita and Hayes Perham are going to make way for Kodi Nikorima when he slots into the team next week. So there was kind of the vibe like, oh, let's just play this game and then we can start our season next week when Kodi Nikorima arrives. And that's a genuine reason to be, I wouldn't go as far as saying excited, but interested in how the Warriors perform over the coming weeks, because you're going to have an international half playing alongside Blake Green. Like, you're not going to have Blake Green having 10 kicks, Chanel Harris-Tavita 1 kick, and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck 1 kick. That kind of balance isn't at all good. You're going to have a more even split with Kodi Nikorima in the team. And just the options, Nikorima playmaking, Blake Green playmaking, freeing up Isaac Luke to do what he wants to do. And then you got Roger Tuivasa-Sheck as well. So there's upside. There's still upside. But this game in a vacuum was just really depressing. And I was listening to Dean and Kemp's podcast with Bo Champion. And Bo Champion was talking a lot about like really intricate rugby league details. And he was saying like stuff like when you're playing Jonathan Thurston, instead of having an even split of defenders on both sides of the ruck, or a If you've got a short side, you're not going to have even number, but you're going to have, 3-on-3 on the short side. If you're defending against Jonathan Thurston, you might send an extra defender onto Thurston's side of the ruck. So just think about that, how defenses are able to manipulate their defense to align with the major playmaker of the opposition. So if you're playing the Warriors, you're loading up on whatever side of the field Blake Green's on. And you might add an extra number if you see Roger Tuivasa-Sheck and Blake Green on the same side of the ruck. That may be a factor in what's stifling the Warriors' attack. Suddenly, if you inject Kodi Nikorima into there, then you've got to stay even numbers. You can't load up on one side of the ruck just because there's a major playmaker on that side of the ruck. Just interesting ideas that I think may be a factor in the Warriors having a really kind of shitty attack at the moment. There's not much brewing. There's not much brewing in however the Warriors are attacking. So, yeah, really down buzz display against the Newcastle Knights. Won't go too much more into that, like it is what it was, and it was pretty crap. Reserve grade. So Sunday I write this whole thing about Adam Pompey going to play fullback in reserve grade. How that's pretty cool because he was playing centre, he was playing wing, and now he's going to play fullback. Well, guess what? He didn't play fullback. Paul Turner played fullback. He was from the Jersey Flegg team, was playing in the halves for Jersey Flegg. Now he went up to play fullback for reserve grade. Obviously also because you had Hayes Perham on the bench. So next week you're going to have Chanel Harris-Tavita and Hayes Perham both dropping down to reserve grade, I believe, to make way for Kodi Nikorima. In terms of how reserve grade lined up, they had a 28-12 win over the Newcastle Knights, which is nice. It was kind of by the book. Paul Turner was the only real late change. And one of the big performers here was Jackson Frey, the new recruit from the Wyong Roos. He was along with Adam Pompey. They came from Wyong Roos, which is the Roosters. And Jackson Frey had 14 runs for 148 metres, which is, it's just casually over that 10 metre per run marker. And he started. So that was a great effort from Jackson Frey, who has a unique body shape. He's a real tall fella, so that's exciting. I like the different body shapes, different body sizes. Like that's kind of what the Warriors forward pack's missing. Different shapes, different sizes make it hard to get down make it easier to get down the field. Solomon Kata, robust, 10 runs, 127 metres. Good effort. Well done to him. We'll just slide over to the missed tackles, see what I was doing there. Missed tackles, Solomon Akata, no missed tackles. What's up, bruh? You had Adam Kieran and Api Pefarangi in the halves. Pefarangi is kind of doing a job when required in the halves. So you're probably going to have Adam Kieran, Chanel Harris-Tavita back in the halves in reserve grade. And then I'm interested to see what happens with Hayes Perham because he is a bit more versatile than the other two youngsters. And he could still feature in the NRL squad, depending on what job they need done. Take a quick squiz at the Jersey Flegg, and they had a loss to the Newcastle Knights, 12 points to 30. In terms of late changes for the Jersey Flegg team, you had Sione Moala, the real super-duper young half, coming in for Paul Turner. Paul Turner went up to reserve grade, so Moala came in at 5'8", alongside Casey Smith. Other than that, stock standard as per the team list. But they had a loss. So not much doing there for the Warriors this weekend other than that strong performance in reserve grade. You got guys like Lingy Sao. It was interesting to see. Let's take a look at Tavita Sate, Chris Sate, his statistics from that game. He didn't get huge minutes, which is like the weirdest thing. Stephen Kearney just does these weird things where we'll pick a big forward on the bench and then we'll play him in minimal minutes. So what's the point in this? Chris Sate had 20 minutes, 4 runs for 32 metres. Not a massive performance from Chris Sate, but he has been tearing it down in reserve grade, that's for sure. Lingy Sao, he's playing on an edge for the reserve grade team at the moment. He had 11 runs, 102 metres. So pretty dynamic display from Lingy Sao. Couple of tackle busts, 3 offloads as well. And Preston Ricky, 6 runs, 63 metres. Keep an eye on Preston Ricky. I keep saying it. He's going to be someone who steps into the middle for the Warriors. Probably not this season, but in the coming seasons. That's for sure. So that's pretty much my Warriors discussion at the moment. I will preview that Kodi Nikorima situation later in the week, just when it's confirmed he's going to play, once we've got the team list, once we can look forward to whoever they are going to be playing. Who are they going to be playing next week? They are playing the Dragons, and that's going to be tricky. Dragons are pretty good. All these NRL teams are pretty good. Let's take a look at the ladder, and the Warriors are now 12th. They are one of 5 teams on 4 points. So on 4 points, you got the Bulldogs in last place, then the Panthers, Titans, Broncos, and Warriors. So not the best place to be, but the congestion in the middle of the table is what's working in the Warriors' favour here. Warriors are 12th on 4 points, and then on 7th, you've got the Sharks on 8 points. So there's only 4 points separating the Warriors in 12th and the Sharks in 7th. And then you've got a bit of a split there as you get further into the top 6. The Seagulls are in 6th on 10 points. Then you've got Eels on 10 points, Storm on 12 points, Raiders on 12 points, Rabbitohs 14, Roosters 14. So all those teams on 10 plus points, so on the top 6, they're fairly solid. And then you've got this middle of the table group where no one really knows, like anyone can beat the Sharks if they're still battling injuries. The Knights are up and down. Cowboys up and down in 11th. Got Jason Taumalola back, so they might be able to make a run now. Dragons are in 8th. They've got really good moments, not so good moments. So it's all a bit crazy in that middle of the table area. And if the Warriors can rack up a few wins into Origin period, then during Origin period, coinciding with the arrival of Kodi Nikorima, interesting times. But they are currently in 12th. On 4 points, and yeah, that's pretty shitty at the moment. Let's move this out into a wider, broader NRL discussion, and I did also write today about Manase Fainu being in conjunction, I'm messing up all my con words, being in contention for a Tongan call-up this year, because he is being an absolute nightmare coming off the bench playing hooker for the Manly Seagulls. Let me just check what he did. He played 54 minutes. I rolled through the season average stats per Fox Sports in my written thing, so go check that out if you do want a comparison with Api Kodasel and also Saliva Havili and Sione Katoa, the incumbent Tongan hookers. Against the Bulldogs, 18-10 win for the Manly Seagulls. Manase Fainu had 54 minutes, 11 runs, 124 metres, 4 tackle busts, 4 offloads, 6 dummy half runs for 77 metres. Manase Fainu is he's not the smallest hooker. He's quite a big body. He's athletic. He's fast. He's always got an offload like that. Those 4 offloads are fairly status quo for Manase Fainu. He definitely gets an offload, and he's got that Isaac Luke. We haven't really seen it this season, but Isaac Luke, when he runs, he'll get a fend on the defender who's on the defensive line 10 metres away. So he'll run in, dig into the defensive line after he's just run 10 metres, and then get an offload in. So if you're doing that from dummy half, you're engaging the defenders, you're forcing defenders to chase, which is that's a effort in itself, is to tackle in this case Manase Fainu or Isaac Luke. To tackle them's an effort, and then if they get an offload after that, it's another effort, and suddenly you're causing defenders to stay engaged, follow the ball, and it might not lead to anything on that specific play, but then if you shift it out to the edges after the offload, hit the ruck, and then come back the other way, you're targeting tired defenders. It's just so dangerous. Having a hooker who can run and then offload in the tackle just keeps the ball in play, keeps the ball moving, and that's exactly what Manase Fainu does. He is really good at rugby league. Manase Fainu, former junior Kiwi. I am fairly confident that he's going to go down the Tonga route And Sione Katoa isn't playing very good at the moment. Let's just take a look at Sione Katoa with the Panthers in their loss to Canberra Raiders. Really like what the Canberra Raiders are doing. Those English dudes are mean. Shans Nickel Clockstead, obviously. Kiwi NRL perspective, he is the man. Love what Nickel Clockstead is doing, even getting sin-binned like a ruthless mofo. But the Panthers aren't so good. Panthers are funny. I'm enjoying watching the Panthers struggle just like with their whole situation, everything that's happening over there. Shout out to the Panthers if you love the Panthers. Sione Katoa off the bench, 27 minutes, 2 runs for 16 meters, nothing else. No dummy half runs, no offloads, no tackle bus. He is the bench hooker for Tonga. You've got Saliva Havili, and interestingly, Saliva Havili is playing as a middle forward in the NRL. Sione Katoa isn't playing well. So you've got the situation. I do think the best case scenario for Tonga is that Saliva Havili starts games because he's experienced. He's a chunkier body, so he's he's playing as a middle forward now, so he's suited to those opening exchanges, just getting the boys rolling down the field for Tonga. And then you bring on Manase Fainu to add spice and X Factor, razzle dazzle, and Manase Fainu should be selected on the bench ahead of Sione Katoa. Like, that's just how it is at this stage. Playing better footy, more upside, and in conjunction with that Tongan forward pack, wow. Wowee. Manase Fainu. Keep an eye on him because he is a very interesting Kiwi NRL. Like, I don't really lean too deep into his Kiwi NRL connection because he was born in Australia. He has played for the junior Kiwis, so that's cool. Apparently he does have some sort of Kiwi parentage, whether it's a Māori parent with a Tongan parent, I'm not sure. So I do view Manase Fainu through that Kiwi NRL lens, but loosely, because he was born in Australia by all accounts, but he has played junior Kiwi, so it's like this weird situation. But from a purely Tongan perspective, you want Manase Fainu, and you want him playing behind that forward pack because he's the man. He is simply the man. Let's just have a quick gaze at Saliva Havili's work there against the Panthers, coming off the bench and playing 22 minutes, so not a huge stint for Saliva Havili this week, but he did have 7 runs for 54 metres, so down on the 10 metre per run mark, but high output. 7 runs, 22 minutes for 54 metres, not bad. A tackle bust, an offload, standard Saliva Havili, kind of playing as a middle forward, doing what he can to help his Canberra Raiders team, not quite having the same impact as Iosio Soliola though. Bruh, he was the man. 44 minutes, 17 runs, 143 metres. Every run he does, he's just making ground. And it was kind of changed the game to some extent just when Soliola came onto the field. Liking the energy and vibes that Nickel Clockstead is playing with at fullback for the Raiders as well. Touched on the Seagulls versus Bulldogs game. One highlight I will also touch on is Jeremy Marshall-King's doing a great job playing hooker for the Bulldogs. Obviously younger brother of Benji. And he played 70 minutes at hooker against this Manly Seagulls team. Couple of runs. He's not the quickest bloke, but a couple of runs. 6 runs, 55 metres. And plenty of tackles, I do believe. Bit of a tackling machine. 42 tackles. No missed tackles. Couple of ineffective tackles, but all good. No worries there. No missed tackles. Jeremy Marshall-King, like, no one's mentioning him as a Kiwis hooker, but he's an option if you want to go that route. Like, if things align and you don't have Brandon Smith, you don't have Danny Levi, no Isaac Luke, Jeremy Marshall-King will be a good person with a simple style of play to let him have a go and see what he can do. I talked about Soliola's impact off the bench for Canberra Raiders. Another Tongan who I'm talking a lot about in recent weeks is Ofahiki Ogden, Mangere East Jr. 26 minutes off the bench for the Bulldogs, and his impact was tangible. You could feel that shit. You could feel when Ogden was running the footy that he was influencing the game. 7 runs, 78 meters. Boom. 30 post-contact meters off just 7 runs. Ofahiki Ogden doing his thing. 3 tackle busts and just a solid display from Ogden. Having plenty of impacts. Let's see what Dylan Napa was up to. 11 runs, 104 meters. Aiden Tolman, 12 runs, 99 meters. So they played bigger minutes than Ogden, so it's hard to compare them. But Ogden's more dynamic. He's more mobile. He's more powerful than those dudes. So he's offering something that a lot of the Bulldogs forwards aren't offering. So that's something to keep an eye on with Tonga. If you're looking for another middle forward, Tonga, you do have Ofahiki Ogden coming through. And he is pretty damn good at this rugby league thing. In terms of results, Eels. I think this game is going to interest me, so I'll get those stats up. Eels defeated Dragons 32 points to 18 at their new stadium, which had me jealous about what Mount Smart could be on a good day, which it wasn't. You had the Cowboys defeating the Titans with Jason Taumalolo's return. Rabbitohs defeated the Broncos. Sharks defeated the Storm. And Roosters defeated the West Tigers. Eels have one of the edge forwards, Manase Fainu, who is having an awesome season thus far. You've got Kodi Nikorima for the Sharks, who's fantastic and may play his way into a Kiwis jersey. But the one to pay attention to as well is Manase Fainu. He played 76 minutes on an edge this week, 11 runs, 93 metres, solid effort, a tackle bust, and an offload. Just a solid game from Nikorima. And you also had Manu Ma'u playing through the middle again, I believe. Yeah, Lane and Nikorima played big minutes, so he might have shifted out to the edge for those 4 minutes that Nikorima missed. But he had 13 runs, 105 metres from Manu Ma'u, tackle bust, and 3 offloads as well. Great impact there from Manu Ma'u playing through the middle, I do believe. Just checking these minutes to see how they rack up, but I do think he had a substantial stint in the middle for the Parramatta Eels. Good win for the Eels. They're doing pretty well, and they got their new stadium. As I said, plenty of buzz, plenty of energy around that new stadium, and that's like, I'm in Auckland and we don't have any stadium like that. Just a nice, compact stadium where people want to come to, they enjoy the experience. None of that in Auckland. We've got these atrocities. Auckland's stadiums are atrocities. We've got 3 stadiums. We only need 1 stadium, and we have 3 atrocities. That's because retards make decisions in Auckland and New Zealand in general. Don't know what else to discuss this round of footy. Maybe a little bit let's just check in with Caleb Aitken's stats. I'm always interested to see how Caleb Aitken's running stats look in that Panthers versus Raiders game, going back there. Just because he doesn't look like someone who's going to make many meters, but he does. He makes huge meters. 18 runs, 135 meters. Reflective of the game here with the Panthers struggling against the Raiders. 39 post-contact meters. Strong effort from Aikens. And if you're looking at, Aotearoa's fullback depth, you've got Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, Dallin Watanese-Lesniak can play fullback. Jerome Hughes is playing fullback at various points for the Melbourne Storm, as well as playing half. Shans Nickel-Klokstad's playing fullback for the Raiders. And you have Caleb Aikens playing fullback for the Penrith Panthers. So off the top of my head, Tuivasa-Sheck, Watanese-Lesniak, Jerome Hughes, Shans Nickel-Klokstad, and Caleb Aikens. That's 5 fullbacks doing their thing, plus Jordan Kahu. 6 Kiwi NRL fullbacks doing their thing in the NRL. That's a beautiful, what a beautiful state to be in for Kiwi Rugby League. And then you like even the halves. Nikorima, Tamaru Martin's out of the picture at the moment. Hopefully he gets better. Benji Marshall, I think he played in that Roosters game. Sean Johnson, We had Dylan Brown earlier this season for the Parramatta Eels. Chanel Harris-Davida's come in as well. Plenty of halves. Plenty of hookers. Doing alright here. Doing alright. Rugby league things from Aotearoa. If you do have any questions, ideas, comments, queries, whatever you want to say it on the various formats. And we will be back. I think we're going to be back recording a niche cast episode about the Wellington Phoenix because their season's all wrapped up. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, I'll be back later in the week for another Funkadelic Rugby League chit-chat yarn. Oh, I was reminded. I did just remember that we have a Queensland residents team that was named. So I'll just pull that up. And the funny thing is you can have any type of Kiwi player in the residents team. So sometimes you have Warriors playing in the New South Wales residents team. Sometimes you just got Kiwi NRL players, which is what we have for the Queensland residents team. We got Jesse Arthurs at fullback, he's been tearing it up for Burleigh Bears. At centre, he is signed to the Gold Coast Titans. He spent time, I think he started with the Titans, then he went down to Melbourne Storm, and he went to the Rabbitohs, and now he's back at the Titans. He has been as part of the New Zealand Rugby League Torohere program. So it will be interesting down the track to see if he does go the Aotearoa route or he could go Queensland because he did move over at young age. He is from Auckland, but he's named at fullback for the Queensland residents. Deluis Hoita is another Kiwi NRL reserve grader, does have an international cap or two for Tonga. He is named at centre from Winnamanly Seagulls. And that's it from the Kiwi NRL Queensland residents team. And that means that we will have a New South Wales residents team. That game is scheduled for May 12th, which is next weekend. So we should have a New South Wales Canterbury Cup residents team named fairly early this week, in the coming days. If not today, maybe tomorrow. So I'll be keeping a close eye on that to see if there are any Kiwi NRL reserve graders in the New South Wales residents team. Big cheers to you all. Support the niche case. Share it around. Tell a friend. We're out here doing our thing, trying our best to provide beautiful Kiwi sporting content for you all. And peace and love to you all. Keep growing. Keep challenging yourself. Stepping outside of your comfort zone. Stay positive. Kia kaha. Later, bolt.